Update. Would I be the a-hole if I cut my family out of my life after inheriting an estate? Original post. Okay, for background, I'm male 24, live a very different life than the majority of my family. I didn't graduate high school, but got a GED and started working as a welder and hunting guide. The rest of my family is pretty successful. For instance, my father is a lawyer and my mom used to be a registered nurse. Brothers own companies, sister got married to a lawyer, etc. I'm glad my family found a lot of success, but they can be very shallow. It often put me down for what I do for work. My mom will make comments like, "When are you going to school to get a real job?" or stuff like that. They didn't want to pay for welding school, so I worked at an auto shop to pay my own way through. They often go on vacations and cruises without me because I won't be able to appreciate the culture or food and other BS like that. I love them, but I have been slowly pulling away from them over the last few years since I can tell that we live different lives, and they have no interest in sharing their lives with me. Now, my grandfather's brother Mike and I have always been pretty close. Mike and I used to go hunting when I was pretty young, and even though Mike was also working in law, he and I shared a love of the outdoors and nature. About a year ago, Mike was diagnosed with cancer and has quickly gone downhill in the last few months. I have taken a lot of time off of work to care for him since he is my oldest relative and no one else wants to take care of a frail, sick old man for some callous reason. His wife died 15 years ago and he doesn't have any children. He recently asked me if taking care of him was hurting me financially, and I told him that I was cutting back on hours at work, but I loved him more than any of my other family members, so it was my pleasure to take care of him. The next time I went to visit him, he revealed to me that he was having his will changed and would be willing his hunting cabin to me. It's not a cabin. It's a small single-family home with power and running water on 70-plus acres, along with about $100,000 to get it fixed up and start your life. He wants the rest of his estate to be liquidated and donated to different causes that he was passionate about. Mike is actively dying now. He asked to be taken out of hospice so he can die at home with his dog, who will also be coming with me when he passes away. In his own home, my family was talking about how much money Mike has, and how when he dies, they want to convert his hunting cabin into a summer vacation home, and how they were going to fund a big memorial trip to Europe on his dime, since we are his last remaining family, and they expect the majority of his wealth to be broken up between us all. They do not know that everything is being donated and I'm getting the house and some of his money. I know that when they find out about what Mike has so graciously done for me, they will rip me down and curse his name. I don't want to be around for the fallout. I plan to set aside some money for renovating the house for full-time use and start a small welding company someday. So would I be the a-hole if I cut them out of my life as soon as Mike is gone? Seeing this new greedy side of them has soured me a lot, and I don't know if I can even stand being around them anymore. Even though I know that Mike always said that your family should be everything to you. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Using what he left you and building up your life is the best way to honor your uncle. People can be vultures when someone dies, and it's always satisfying when they face an empty field. Besides, since they're also super successful and cultured, they shouldn't mind if the poor family gets a leg up. Thanks. I want to honor Mike as best I can, and family was very important to him, so I was worried I might be spitting on one of his core values by cutting the rest of my family out of my life. Make sure the cabin is locked down, locks changed, and cameras up, so no one can move in and claim it. I plan to make sure everything is locked up tight, but since it appears they can't even remember what state it's in, I think that'll help. Not the a-hole. They will probably be the ones cutting you out when they find out what happened. Better make sure his will is bulletproof and your family of lawyers can't contest it. Like a video and/or attorney friend sit in and record the documents. Families can be really messed up and worse when estates are involved. I had to sue my disgusting family after my father died. No one is worse than family, especially greedy entitled ones. My great-grandpa's estate was worth over $11.5 million according to lawyers in 2012 when he set up a trust, all in real estate. Mind you, 2012 was near the bottom of the market, and he owned an apartment complex and quite a few houses in California. My aunt was designated executor of his estate and proceeded to max out lines of credit against all of the properties. unbeknownst to any trustees, since the truster was still alive, just too out of it to know what my aunt was up to. When he died a few years ago, there was less than $4 million to be split between my parents and their siblings. My uncle did a similar thing with my other grandparents. Family doesn't mean anything to some people when money's involved. Now, for the update 4 months later, Mike passed away shortly after my last post. He died peacefully in his sleep. His last waking hours were spent with me, Macy, and a nurse that was caring for him. He is buried next to his late wife. He lived a good life. Some of his last words to me were, "We had a pretty good run, didn't we?" The will issue was hilarious to me and was a great pain reliever. Mike is always looking after me even after his death, because watching the bombs fall in real time was like chicken soup to my grieving soul. Yes, Mike did leave the cabin and money to me. He also left me his guns, his dog and her stuff, and his fishing pole/tackle and a few mementos from over the years. He changed the will 3 years ago and simply never told me or anyone else in the family. He left various trinkets for other members of our family that were pretty on the nose. For instance, he left my father, who spent a long time complaining about the contractors doing work on the house, a bag of old hand tools. My sister got a box of wine glasses. One of my brothers got a drawer full of pens and pencils for your blossoming legal career. He also gave all of us some money for a round of beer in his honor. Watching everyone go from fake sadness to excitement to honor and disgust was quite a trip. My mom kicked the pot of flowers outside the office so hard she tipped it over. My father just stared out the window in silence for a really long time. Oldest brother held it together until we made it home, and then started screaming and swearing about getting a freaking box of pencils as a thank you for being part of his life. I have been moved from the disappointment son list to the third list. As some of you noted, they weren't exactly angry about the cabin and the money Mike left me, but more so his larger assets that were being liquidated and donated. That drove them completely insane. The main target of their abuse was the primary organization that Mike willed the rest of his estate to, and other than an initial small explosion and some snide comments, they seemed to take it in stride. I haven't spoken to them much ever since Mike's passing and the will issue. There are still issues, and such that need to be worked out, and I was told that could last up to a year. The cabin has been locked up. I set up some cameras and a gate alarm. I am moving in slowly, hopping between here and my apartment until my lease is up. It's definitely dated, and I'm currently working through renovations and repairs. Because my phone number is tied to my work, I didn't want to change it. Just opted to block everyone except my mother in case something really bad happened. After a few days of her complaining/questioning why Mike left me something so nice, she quieted down. Last week, she began calling and texting me again and telling me it was an emergency. I spoke on the phone with her, and lo and behold, it was not an emergency. They want me to donate the cabin and land to my sister, since she's thinking about starting a family and wants to raise her future children holistically. I told my mom that my sister and her husband have a double income and a lovely house in a completely different state than me, and if they wanted to move out to the country, they were completely able to do so, but I would not be giving them my land. She then suggested they buy it from me for $200,000, which is far, far less than it is worth. I said no. I got everything from "I'm a selfish bastard" to "if I don't support my sister's dreams of raising her kids in the countryside, I'm dead to her." To Mike would want me to give the cabin and land over, to "see if we ever do anything for you ever again, you entitled a-hole." I feel like it should have been harder to hear those things, but it just feels like they're trying to get me to give up what my great-uncle willed to me, and it made me angry rather than sad. My sister also got on the phone to cry and say it was her and her husband's dream to raise their kids, specifically on Mike's land. I kind of felt bad saying no to her then, but in hindsight, she's never mentioned it before, so maybe this is a new development. Since then, they've been contacting me by email, social media, and the like, hounding me to let my sister have/buy the cabin and land. So despite my best efforts, the people of Reddit are right once again. I should have gone completely no contact. I've deleted my socials, and since I moved job locations, they don't know where I am currently working. They do, however, know where my house is. Sometime while I was at work, my mom and sister drove over and knocked on the doors, tried to open the side door and looked in the windows. On my doorbell camera, my mother very clearly tells my sister not to touch anything so we can't sue. I am thinking of putting up a locking gate. Right now it latches but does not lock. Everyone is now blocked, and I am putting together a list of people that would need to be notified of a phone number change, since I want to change my number. Not really sure how to go about keeping them from walking onto my property. About 2 weeks ago when I came back to my apartment, my parents were both waiting for me to confront me about how devastated my sister is, that her future children won't have the experience of growing up in the country. I'm kind of afraid that they might camp out at the property until I give in. I put up no trespassing signs and I hope that's enough. I know one of my brothers drove by a while back because he snapped me a picture of the road my house is on. Other than that, I am well. Macy is well and Mike is laughing from the grave. I'll stick around a little longer here and then I'll be logging out of this account permanently. P.S. If anyone has any suggestions for how to find a good dog groomer, please let me know. Mike had a groomer for Macy, but now that we've moved, they're 6 hours away, and I can't keep taking her there. She is shedding a lot and Mike was firm that she can't be shaved. I have some brushes for her, but I don't know anything about brushing a dog. Also, she has a lot of bandanas and bows that Mike had her wear, but I think I'm tying them too tight because she doesn't seem to like wearing them. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Meeting with the local police is a great suggestion. There was an AITA post a year ago about someone with a vacation cabin for their parents who found out his sisters were renting on the side. When he cut off the sisters, they tried all sorts of things to get back on the property. He hired a local property manager who happened to be friends with the local sheriff. Brother-in-law got arrested for trespassing and it really changed things. As for your gate, think about an old school lock. We have an automatic driveway gate, but when we leave on trips, my husband uses my 30-year-old bike lock, a chain/cord which cannot be cut, to further secure the gate. I had 2 locks, one with a key and one with a combination lock. He just traps it between the bars a few times, so there is not much slack. I remember that, and that might be on the money. It does make more sense that they wanted an income stream through Airbnb or VRBO than to raise imaginary children in the country. Yeah, I think you nailed it. Depending on where the cabin is located, can you make nice with the local police presence and make them aware of at least the basics of your family situation, so they can help with the property line reinforcement down the line? It might also be worth it to consult the appropriate lawyers to see about legally protecting your land and property from trespassers, as well as hopefully yourself from the constant harassment. As for Macy, can you search for videos and tips on grooming golden retrievers at home? There's been a steady rise in animal grooming videos, so I hope there's something in there about the bandanas and bows as well. Her accessory closet sounds adorable. I wish you the best in figuring everything out. You got this. I'm going to talk to someone about what I can do legally. It was willed to me and I was given permission to move in, but it's not in my name yet, so I don't really know. I don't understand a lot legal stuff. Letting the police know is a good idea though. Macy has some bows on right now. They're like hair bands that go around her ears. I've got some for every season and holiday. I'm going to try and brush her out myself this evening. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I'll pay rent when my brother does? When my brother 22 and I 20 female were around 14 and 16, we were told that when we graduated high school, our options were to go to college and get a part-time job to pay for stuff, like gas and our phone bills and whatever else we wanted. Don't go to college and get a full-time job and pay rent, or move out. We were also told we only had $20K each in our college accounts and we'll have to get loans for everything else. We both started out at community college. I changed my major 3 semesters in, so I'm starting over. Still in community college for another 2 to 3 semesters. We are also very lucky that there are 3 state schools and a lot of private universities within an hour of my house. My brother chose one an hour and a half away, so he'd have to get an apartment. He quit his job in June and keeps making excuses as to why he can't get another one. So they're paying $1,600 a month for his apartment and another $500 directly to him for food, gas, etc. Community college is free in my state, and I have scholarships and Pell Grants that cover anything school-related, so my college account is untouched right now. I also work 2 part-time jobs. I'm a teacher at a local dance academy and I'm a party princess on weekends. They both pay pretty well. My dance teacher job pays me $35 an hour and I work 10 to 15 hours a week depending on the session. Party Princess varies, but my rates start at $150 for 45 minutes and can go all the way to $500 depending on what the parents select. I have a website where the parents can choose the time slot and the basic activities for the time slot, like ballerina 10:15 to 11, story time, game, tattoos, performance, cake $150, add goodie bags for $75, add mini lesson for $50, add face painting for $65. I work up to 6 parties in a weekend and can do 20 a week during the summers, and I've been doing this for 3.5 years. My parents knew my business was good, but they didn't know how good until I traded in my 2012 Civic for a 2024 CR-V hybrid and paid the difference in cash. Now, suddenly my parents are telling me that I need to pay rent and help out. Since I'm not really in school, my classes are mostly online because I like the flexibility that it allows. I ask why they're suddenly asking now, and they said it's because they're struggling. I asked why they're giving my brother $2,100 a month if they're struggling, but they said he needs the help. I finally told them I am holding up my end of the bargain. I go to school, I work to pay for my car insurance and phone bill and any extras I want. They let me stay here for free while I'm in school. If they really need money this bad, they should tell my brother that he needs to get a job, get student loans, or transfer to one of the schools driving distance from home. But I won't be paying rent until he does. They think I'm being difficult and unfair, and brought up how they paid for my dance and gymnastics growing up. I was a competitive dancer until I was 16, and I'm a level 8 gymnast. But they also paid for my brother to be on his travel baseball team, and got him a private coach. So it evens out. I'm still refusing to pay rent, and I'm considering moving out and renting a room or living with my grandparents. But I wanted to know if I was the a-hole for saying I won't pay rent until my brother does. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I would ask, why are you being penalized for having your act together? In this case, it seems Big Bro is the golden child. My wife dealt with the same BS for years. When she lived with her mother, she had to pay rent, while her younger brother didn't have to do anything. She finally broke away from her family when she met me and is glad to have done so. Not the a-hole. Your parents are teaching your brother to be an entitled lazy bum. They should be proud of what you do, not asking for money that they chose to foolishly give your brother. Hold your ground, or move in with someone else. Your mom and dad aren't doing your brother a favor. He will be missing life lessons, like being responsible and independent. You seem very ambitious and accomplished at a very young age. Congratulations. What you earn is yours. Your parents' poor decisions on where they send their cash is their problem. But he's their baby boy. My sister did this on a much smaller scale to my niece. She worked 2 jobs / 60 hours a week during summer. She and her brother shared a car at college, but she had to pay for all the gas and insurance because she had more money. My mom also said Matthew needed a car more for dates. I said his sister needed it to not be assaulted coming home late from campus. To date, my nephew is an entitled turd. Update. My dad stole my identity and opened 3 credit cards in my name. I turned him into the police. Original post. I found my dad used my information to open 3 credit cards over the last year. When I went to get a pre-approval for a mortgage, I was told by the lender they wouldn't be able to give me a home loan because of the defaulted credit cards. They also said I probably wouldn't be able to get a loan from any lender because of it, and gave me a sheet of paper explaining what I need to do in order to fix it. When I tried disputing the cards, one of which is already in collections, the disputes got closed out, as the debts were verified. I told my divorced parents about it, and their answers were pretty wildly different. My dad said these things happen, and that I should be more careful in the future with my social security number. Seeing as I've always been careful, that made me pretty mad. My mom said she thinks my dad might have something to do with it, since him opening credit cards in her name had a part to play in their divorce. She told me he ran up about $50,000 in credit card debts on secret credit cards. A few days ago, I ended up casually telling my dad I'm going to have to file a police report for the credit cards. He told me I probably shouldn't do that because $15,000 isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. When I told him it was keeping me from buying a house, he said I could just wait a few years until they fell off my credit report. He said it would only take another 4.5 years. When I told him I obviously couldn't wait that long, so I have to file the police report, he straight up told me not to do it and to just be more careful in the future. Once I told him I already got the paperwork together from the credit agencies, he told me he had opened the cards to pay for living expenses over the last year. He said his work slowed down a little bit, but he'd do what he could to help pay it off. He said it would ruin his life if he went to jail. I'm leaning towards going to the police anyway, but I didn't write that minute. I have everything in front of me today to go make the report. I guess I just want to make sure turning it over to the police is the right thing to do here, especially if I'm wanting to buy a house this year. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Report him for fraud. Now that he is older, a little prison time shouldn't bother him. A-hole. Report him instantly so you can have your life back. He knew this would happen, but just put it off until you grew up. If he wasn't your dad, you'd have reported him already, right? Well, think about this. Why didn't he give you the same respect and not ruin your credit because he's your father? You've got it somewhat backwards. The man ruined OP's credit because he's OP's father. He didn't do it to some random stranger on the street. He victimized his own child instead. He victimized his own child because it was easy too. Parents naturally have access to their child's social security number from the child's birth. Easy pickings. Would he do it to someone on the street? Most likely yes. He seems the type. But that's harder to do. Screwing over your wife and kid is easy because those numbers are readily available. And he banked on family love to keep himself out of jail. Report him. The same thing happened to me after my parents disowned me and I was an undergrad. I learned a lot about personal finance and got it sorted out and paid off the credit card bills. Then I find my dad trying to do it again. Told my family to stay away from me and gathered evidence that I would take them to court for the debit and identity theft. The fact that your dad is so nonchalant is giving me PTSD. Sign up for credit checking and/or credit monitoring service to prevent any further activity, and definitely file the police report. Now for the first update. I spent about half of the day reading everyone's comments and it pretty much solidified what I was going to do. The process itself was pretty easy. I went to the police department and the person at the front desk had me wait about 10 minutes before an officer came out. We talked for about 15 minutes and I made copies of all the paperwork I gave him. He told me the case would be assigned to a detective on Tuesday and gave me a pamphlet they have about how to contact the credit agencies. I was given a report number and was told I could use that now to start disputing the accounts. A detective is going to follow up with me in the next couple of weeks. I asked what would end up happening to my dad, and the officer said it looked pretty clear-cut to him, but the charging decision is 100% with the state attorney's office. He said if they decide to pursue charges, he'll likely get a warrant put out for his arrest. He also said typically if this is his first felony, he's probably going to get some sort of pre-trial diversion with court supervision or probation. He probably won't go to jail for years, but if he gets picked up on a warrant, he's going to spend at least a little bit of time behind bars. I've decided I'm okay with that, because it's obvious to me he did this purposefully. He's never been arrested before, so hopefully this is a wake-up call for him. At the same time, he completely did this to himself. I'll update whenever I learn more. Well done, Opie. I was so mad on your behalf reading the first post. It would take everything in me not to use his words against him. Jail time? It's just a few years. You've ruined my life? No, you did, by trying to ruin mine. I hope the marks come off your credit report like it's made of Teflon. Good luck on your home ownership journey. Same here. I couldn't believe how Opie's dad just expected Opie to suck it up and have to pay that fraud off themselves. His attitude was essentially, "It's okay, son. My fraud won't affect your life for too long. Yeah, I've inconvenienced you a little because you can't buy a house for 4 more years, but it'll go by fast. Oh, in the meantime, I'll try to pay back some of the debt I racked up on credit cards I created using your social security number." He did this nonsense to OP's mother as well. I'd be encouraging the mom to do the same and get her credit cleared as well. Perhaps when she sees how OP cleared his credit up relatively quickly, she'll pursue him as well. Makes me sick a parent could do this to their own kids. Parents are supposed to protect their kids, not burden them. My dad and my stepmom are kinda bad with money. When I lived with him, he'd sometimes borrow money but never get it back. He'd find a way to justify not paying me back by saying it's for rent or some BS. Fortunately, it wasn't too much. Maybe $80 here, $40 there. Thankfully, he never did anything like this credit card fraud to me though. I too would want to go to the police to fix my credit, but it's obviously be really hard because it would destroy our relationship. Perhaps that's what these crappy parents count on. Guilt. We're actually much closer now than when I was younger, and he never asks for money either. I am amazed that a father would do that to his child. Defrauding you and the banks. He used $15,000 for living expenses? He didn't know there are federal and state programs that will help people having a rough time. I am guessing since your mother mentioned he did the same thing to her credit, this isn't his first rodeo. It sucks you have to now clean up a mess you didn't create to get back to ground zero before you can start the loan process for a home. Your father really needs to apologize and ask for your forgiveness for being an idiot. My best friend has 2 siblings, and their father tried this with all 3 of his children. Absolutely destroyed the credit of 2 of his kids. My bestie is smart and got keen to his game even as a teenager, and was the only one he couldn't/didn't screw over, because she was so vigilant about keeping him away from any of her information, monitoring the mail, things like that. So sad, considering she was also a teen parent trying to claw her way back to stability and create a better life for her kids, and she did. I think this is more common than people realize. Mine did something similar. Was just because he couldn't control my mom's shopping habit and didn't want her hassling him. I'm pretty open about talking to people about it, and I've had a surprising number of instances where people talk to me privately to relate some similar story. They don't talk about it often to avoid generating ongoing conflict within their family. Some people still want to reconcile with their family if possible. My dad's dead now, and my mom bounced when no longer financially beneficial for her to be around, so never has been an issue for me. Now for the second update. There's been some good, a little bad, and a little real bad progress the past few days. The good, I used my report number and dispute every account. When I checked my credit last, which everyone should be doing regularly, the one with the lowest balance was already off of my account. The other cards and the collection account are still showing, but I have hope they'll be falling off in the next few weeks. I also received a call from someone at the prosecutor's office who had a couple of extra questions for me and asked if I would be willing to testify if they charge him. I said yes, and they said they would be making a decision on their charges before the end of the month. The bad, obviously, is someone talked to my dad about this, because the last time he talked, he scolded me for going to the police and hasn't talked to me since. One of my brothers was also pretty mad at me about it and hasn't talked to me in over a week. The rest of my siblings and my mom understood where I was coming from. The real bad? One of my other brothers, not the one who was angry, found 2 open credit cards on his credit which weren't his. He checked his credit score for the first time in a couple of years, and he said it was down about 150 points from where it used to be. He's now in the process of dealing with that. He doesn't have any positive proof yet that it was our dad, but the fingers are pointing in that direction. This still blows my mind that a dad could do this to his own children. And moving forward though, I still hope to be able to purchase a house before the end of the year. Edit? Also, I think all of my other siblings, there are 6 of us, are checking their credit too. Probably for the best. I'm not a psychoanalyst, but something tells me he has an addiction of one kind or another. I've seen this behavior in others, mainly friends, family members who are significant others, and there is always a root cause related to addiction, whether it's gambling, drugs, alcohol, or all of the above. If you, your siblings, or your mom have a relationship with your dad in the future, this will absolutely need to be addressed before moving forward. I'm glad you sorted this situation out for yourself, and I'm certain it wasn't easy to do so. You also paved the way for your family members to manage the effects of this on them, as well as for your dad to correct his ways, whether or not he has deeper issues, or this was just a really crappy thing he did. Getting credit in other people's names might be the addiction, just like when rich people shoplift. They get a rush of dopamine by doing something they know they shouldn't. Imagine spending $5,000 that's not yours and thinking it will never come back on you. And it doesn't, so you do it again. This time, the limit is higher. It's a high that doesn't affect your appearance or make you fail a drug test. That's certainly a possibility, although one would have to be a crappy person in the first place to do it the first time. So that is a worse scenario for the family. At least if there was an underlying addiction, it wasn't him destroying his kids' futures. That's a controversial statement, but I'll stand by it. Addiction is a beast, and otherwise decent people become awful in its hold. One of my best friend's ex-husbands had a bad injury. They put him on painkillers he didn't need to be on, and he became addicted, then became abusive, spent their life savings while trying to procure more or alternatives, and destroyed both of their credit to boot. She's still rebuilding to this day. Unfortunately for her, it was well within his legal right when it came to the financial stuff, since they were married and accounts were joint. So she doesn't have the option to quick repair her credit like OP is doing. She also spent the majority of her personal savings to help him send to school for his master's, so the bleeding dry began even before that. But otherwise, this man was good to her until the addiction kicked in. That's sort of what this situation reminds me of mainly. Hence, I think there is some other underlying problem that will not go away even after he served his time. Although I can recall from OP's account in other threads if his dad was always this awful. Last story. Am I the a-hole for exposing my husband online? Original post. I, 28 female, recently discovered that my husband, 32 male, had been not only unfaithful, but also financially irresponsible. I had been struggling to pay bills since he had lost his job, but it turns out he had been squandering our savings on expensive dates with not one, but two women. When I confronted him about his infidelity and financial negligence, he showed no remorse and instead accused me of being too demanding. I felt betrayed and enraged, so I decided to expose him on social media. The financial strain in our relationship began when my husband lost his job. I had been trying my best to keep our finances afloat, juggling bills and expenses alone. It was a stressful time, and I thought we could make it through together. I was wrong. During his shift at work, an anonymous source reached out to me. They shared screenshots of conversations between my husband and one of the other women he had been involved with. These chats reveal details of their plans, their relationships, etc. At that moment, I felt a wave of anger washed over me. I couldn't believe how carelessly he had treated our relationship, our finances, and me. My husband, whose dad was a pastor, liked to preach about loyalty. But when it came down to it, he was running around with not one, but two women behind my back. Talk about hypocrisy, huh? Feeling angry and betrayed, I decided to put my husband on blast on social media. I uploaded all the evidence of his cheating and tagged him and his father, letting everyone know what a two-timing jerk he was. The fallout was massive, and he found himself in the spotlight, exposed for the hypocrite he was. Despite the mountain of evidence I shared, my husband's dad was still defending him like a loyal knight. He called me a liar, dismissed the screenshots, and claimed his precious son wouldn't do something like this. Talk about denial, right? Meanwhile, I was already deep in the process of filing for divorce. His dad's blind loyalty was just adding an extra layer of annoyance. Recently, one of my girlfriends told me I was overreacting, and it's normal for my husband to have more partners. So I've been wondering lately, did I overreact? Edit, forgot to add, but my husband, before marrying me, posted and exposed his cheating partner, so I guess I'm returning the favor. Now for the top comments before reading the update. One of your girlfriends thinks it's okay for your husband to have girlfriends? That's not a person you should remain friends with. Wondering if this friend had some relations with OP's soon-to-be ex. Not much wondering on my part. A pastor condoning his son's infidelity and gaslighting the victim. Not surprising that a pastor would do this, because they tend to be hypocritical, egotistical, morally and ethically deficit. What the husband is doing is morally wrong and will continue to do so in life because daddy has his back. This man should be stripped of his pastor title as he's clearly unfit to teach the Bible. To the wife, to hell with him. Find yourself someone who won't treat you like that. Thanks for such kind words. I hope you find peace and a better life you deserve. Brace yourself and lean on those you can really trust. Perhaps not the church folks that are connected to this pastor. Mini update. Wait, do people actually think my friend is one of the women he was with? Now that I think about it, possibly. I didn't add this because I didn't think it was significant, but my friend I mentioned here, one of my girlfriends told me I was overreacting, and it's normal for my husband to have more partners. We'll just call her Emma, female 25. Emma used to work with the same company my husband worked at. They did once go on a business trip together. My husband told me they didn't share rooms back then when I asked. But now that I realized it, the company only provided one room. Of course, she's been with him. Why else would another woman defend a cheating man whore? To her friend, OP needs to get checked for STDs and bounds. Then it's also weird that she's essentially telling you to stay with him if she's one of the affair partners. Because Emma doesn't want him. She just wanted fun time with him. Either that or he asked Emma to speak to OP. Full update. Thank you all for your support and input. After much reflection and considering the advice you've given, I've made a difficult decision to move forward with a divorce. While it breaks my heart to end my marriage, I can't ignore the pain and trust that has been betrayed. It's time to prioritize my own well-being and move forward. I've also got a lot of people telling me apparently my friend was probably sleeping with my husband. I looked into the matter and I don't want to give exact details, but you were right. I want to express my gratitude for everyone who has taken the time to offer advice and support. I know it's easy to doubt online stories, especially on a new account, but your insights have meant a lot to me. While this is a painful journey, your kindness helps make it a bit easier. Thank you all for listening and offering guidance. Update. Am I wrong for ultimately wanting a divorce even after my wife has showed much more effort into our relationship? Original post. For context, coming into the new year, I had no idea my wife had been at the bare minimum having an emotional affair with a coworker. On New Year's Eve, before I found out about this, she came home and acted extremely cold toward me and our kids. She was angry. Earlier on that evening, she asked if she could go out to have one drink with a female coworker whom I knew and trusted. I told her that was cool, but that the kids were staying up for the ball drop, so as long as she could be back to celebrate with them, I was fine with it. Well, she ended up getting off of work at 11:30 and barely had enough time to get home. After the ball drop, she cried and cried. I asked her what was wrong, and she said she got invited to a friend's house to have drinks with them. All three of them women, all married. I had no issue. I said, look, I'm not sure what's wrong and why you're crying about this. That's fine. You deserve a girl's night out every once in a while. I don't mind watching the kids. Just go. I put the kids to bed. She left, and then about 3 hours later, so 3 a.m., I try to contact her. No answer. I wait about 15 minutes, call her again. No answer. I call her friend who she's supposed to be with. No answer. She then texts me back 5 minutes later and says, yeah, I'm still coming home tonight. We're still drinking. Never in our 6 years of marriage had I felt a gut feeling that something else was going on, but that night it all hit me. I went through our phone records and found another number I was unfamiliar with that she had been in contact with all night, ignoring my calls, texting that number in between, etc. She had also been texting this number for a 3-month period daily. I never suspected that she would be texting another dude while right beside me watching family movies either, as times had shown. How I didn't see this? I have no idea. Maybe she had this individual listed as mom in her phone? I don't know. I had never gotten this vibe or feeling our entire marriage. I was blindsided by it. Anyway, I confront her about it through text with a proof, like an idiot. She speeds home, deletes everything on her phone. No way of getting the backups restored. No way of ever knowing she did not meet up with this guy. Upon finding this out, I immediately told her I want a divorce. It was at this point she began getting violent with me, talking crap about everything I had been doing to keep us financially stable. The 18-hour workdays that kept the roof over our heads. She told me that I needed to leave, even though I pay rent and both our kids are asleep. I refused. We slept in separate rooms that night, and the next day she tried to act like nothing even happened, claiming that she remembered we'd fought but couldn't remember what it was about. So I show her the phone records, even though I'm positive she was just trying to pull some crap. She confesses who the individual was and says they flirted a lot but never met up. I told her if that was true, she'd have no issues restoring the text messages she deleted. At which point it was confirmed she deleted everything and deleted her last backup. She also saved a backup after they were deleted the night everything went downhill. Since then, she's tried hard to convince me they never did anything and never saw each other aside from work. I keep finding bits and pieces of things that don't make sense. Chunks of texts deleted from her friends' messages around that time. Pictures on her Google Drive from that night, where she was with who she said she was, deleted from her phone. For what reason? The most damning evidence I have is for a 2-hour period on New Year's Eve. They stopped texting each other, then randomly started texting again at around 3 a.m. when I started calling and got that feeling. My gut tells me she left her friend's place, went to his place, and went back. Or she went straight to his place from our place, then went to her friends when she found out I was calling them. There are even revealing pictures of herself she never sent me, also on her Google Drive taken on Snapchat. She's since given me all her attention. She initiates intimacy tenfold. The texting stopped. She shows me everything on her Snapchat, and even downloads her data to show me she's not hitting other people up. I'm seeing the side of her I haven't seen since we were married all those years ago. But I can't help but trust my gut in demanding a divorce. I feel like she's kept things from me. Not knowing for sure is killing me inside. My parents know all of this and keep pressuring me to work it out to not dwell. My brothers are saying F that, get a divorce. Am I wrong in getting a divorce? Keep in mind the dates. It's now been over 4 months since this occurred. I'm positive she cut the individual completely out. But I still can't get over the not 100% knowing, and my gut tells me she's still lying. Edit: if some of this is confusing, ask and I will clarify. I will also give context where needed. Also, sorry for the way this was written. I'm aware there is some jumping back and forth, etc. I'm just scattered brain right now. It's honestly getting to me more now than the night I found out. It just keeps building. I feel stupid. Also, forgot to add this. The individual in question is an employee she manages. As in, she is his direct supervisor. I've heard there are greater legal consequences for this, but I have no idea. For clarification, the individual in question is actually morbidly obese. I'm by no means fit, but I'm not fat either. Went back and looked at the timestamps for the pictures that were deleted of her and her friends that night. On Google Drive, before that 2-hour period of no texting, during and after, there were several pictures taken with verified timestamps on them. As in, they cannot be changed on Google Drive. Whether or not she has a friend that's tech-savvy and was able to do that within the 10 minutes it took her to get home upon confronting, I don't know. Is this possible? It's also worth adding, I come from a family that has thoroughly convinced one of my cousins that she needs to stay in her marriage, even when her husband became solely reliant on her, got addicted to coke, is still addicted and physically abused her. All because, by golly, no one in this family has ever gotten a divorce. So essentially, by doing so, I would get disowned by my parents, my sister, all my cousins, all my aunts and uncles, but would still have the support of my 2 brothers. Now for the top advice before reading the update. She cheated and she still has Snapchat? And still works with a guy? That ain't good, bro. That's the thing though. No one here, including herself, is stupid enough to believe she didn't cheat. The only defense she has is that she consciously deleted their evidence, so he would have to take her word for it. The saying they only flirted is the beginning of a trickle truth. Basically, she will only admit what could be proven. Ironically, she's dooming her marriage by not giving full disclosure. It confirms to OP that as long as she can lie or at least deceive to her benefit, she will. She won't own her mistakes or come forward with her wrongdoing with intent to make it right. She has to be cornered and caught for him to get anything a good partner would willingly volunteer. Just make peace with the fact that getting the truth will be harder than getting a divorce, because she has to be willing to participate in the former but not the latter. Honestly, you should show her this post in the comments. If not, feel free to tell her this. She's love bombing you. She hasn't stopped with that guy. But love bombing will make you think you are all she thinks about. It'll slowly wind down to what it was before, once she thinks she has you back to being clueless. She's met up with a guy. You know she did. Heck, there's enough here to make anyone believe she might have met up with him. What do you think she was crying about? She wanted to be with him for New Year's Eve. Take it from there. You don't know everything. You most likely never will. She'll just hide it better. Yeah, the first part of OP's story is classic narcissist abuse and gaslighting. The second part is love bombing. 98% sure this prediction will come true. Mini update. Currently in morning break at work. Been reading through the comments. I've off tomorrow all day, so I will be heavily weighing my options when I get some time to myself tomorrow. May not update tomorrow, but I'll update y'all when I can. Thank you for all the input, positive and negative. The best thing I can do right now is just get through the work week. Get my kids from daycare and be mentally present for them. I've been ignoring her since last night, and she's been snapping and calling me all morning to see what's wrong. Now for the update. I sit here typing this out in my morning break while listening Tuesdays Gone by Leonard Skinner. After a long day of considering my options on Friday, I sat my wife down on Friday evening when she got off work and I had out the kids to bed. As soon as I brought up that my trust in her was completely gone, she immediately became argumentative and essentially stated, "I thought we had left this in the past. You never trusted me, did you?" I responded with, "Even if you didn't do anything physical or met up with him outside of work, you'll never let me see those text messages. You'll never pull that Snapchat data." She responded with, "You're right, marriage is based off trust. And if you don't trust me, then maybe we ought to call it quits." The irony in this is that I worked 18 to 19-hour days for the past few years, barely being able to do anything I wanted to do in my life because I was supporting our children, getting them to bed, cleaning the house all the time, doing all the cooking, barely even getting enough sleep. Probably took years off my life just from the stress. She on New Year's Eve said, "F the kids, F you," and essentially went out to party with her friends, all the while ignoring calls from me and our daughter asking where she was, while also responding to her bare minimum emotional affair partner. Not getting into all the details so as to not repeat myself between this and the update. Long story short, in my state, we have to be separated for a year before a divorce can be finalized. But when I agreed with her that we should start separating and that I had already been in contact with a lawyer, she freaked the heck out on me. She begged me not to go through with it. But alas, next Friday I will be dropping her off at her parents' a few hours away. The kids will be staying with me for now, with the help of one of my brothers. I told her there was only one way I would put this off for now. That was pull the data, pull the texts, prove your case. She looked down at the ground one more time and told me that's a violation of her privacy. We haven't spoken since. For now, for my kids, I gotta keep on keeping on. She knows she can't show you the texts because they prove her affair and how far it went. By not showing you what was being said between them is all the information you need. It was so incriminating she couldn't bear to show you them. You did the right thing. She failed the marriage test and you need to move on and find someone that respects you. Sorry you're going through this. Good luck going forward. When he drops her off at the parents', he should definitely mention to the father-in-law that she can come back and they can out a stop to the process if she just hands over the messages. Edited to add, enough people don't get it, so I'll spell it out. It is a lie, a ruse, a bamboozle if you would. A psychological tactics to turn her parents and her family against her, because it is highly unlikely she would ever mention the texts in any context to her parents or family, as it plainly makes her look guilty. Even if the parents don't believe she cheated, they will become incredibly annoyed by her actions. Best case scenario, she turns over the texts confirming cheating and the divorce becomes crazy easy. Lol, violation of her privacy. Guess that's worse than violating your vows. She knows she cheated and did and said unforgivable things. She knows it would be a divorce. Better to be thought of like this, rather than remove all doubt about her cheating. Her response to the texts tells you all you need to know. She has a guilty conscience, and she darvoed you to make you the bad guy. Exactly. Her response to "okay, prove it" is "you don't trust me." Like, of course he doesn't. She broke the trust once already. She won't admit to how far it went because like was almost 100% physical at the time of him finding out. Second update. Trickle truth. First, it was a guy in a different state. Second, it was a coworker. Third, it was someone underneath her that she supervises. Fourth, and just now, randomly got a text from her stating she may have told him she loves him but instantly regretted it, and that's it. Right. Also, let me reiterate. The process of separation starts this coming Friday. In my state, you cannot divorce immediately. It takes a full year. I say this because of all the people stating just divorce and be done with it, and also those stating stop giving second chances. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex-fiancé's parents exactly why we broke up and I called off the wedding? So I met my ex-fiancée Amy when we were both 27. Right off the bat, we hit it off. Pretty early in our relationship, Amy let me know that she had a pretty wild past. She wanted to be honest and upfront with me. I told her I didn't care, but I did have concerns about whether she was actually wanting to settle down, which I kept to myself. She had told me how her past had caused a lot of strain with her parents, but didn't really go into detail. I pushed all that aside and dove in. We had an amazing relationship. Over the years, I grew pretty close to her parents. I spent a lot of time at their house helping her dad with projects. We'd often all three go out to lunch after. They're wonderful people. After dating for about 3 years, I proposed. Amy was ecstatic, but her parents were even more excited. We had what seemed like a fairy tale engagement. One weekend, Amy's friend Sarah invited her on a weekend trip to Vegas. Now, Sarah was not someone I liked. She was a friend from that time in Amy's life who was a very bad influence. She would pressure her to drink, do drugs, hook up, etc. I heard her call me boring multiple times on the phone with Amy and even told her that she should break up with me a couple times. Kidding, of course. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but Sarah invited Amy's friend Allie, which made me feel a lot better. Allie was a coworker of Amy's, and we all became really good friends over the years. Allie is one of the kindest and most sincere people that I have ever met. They went to a club one night, and some guys were all over them. They invited the girls to their suite/penthouse upstairs, where they were throwing an after-party. Amy and Allie declined, but Sarah guilt-tripped them into going. During the party, Allie was alone and wanted to go back to their room and sleep. She went looking for Sarah and Amy to see if they wanted to leave or let them know she was leaving. She found them in a room. Sarah was hooking up with one guy and Amy was doing it with 2 guys. The next morning, Amy begged Allie not to say anything to me, and Sarah said it was her fault. When they got back, Allie told me everything right away. To her credit, Amy did not deny any of it. She said she freaked out about getting married and messed up. I was crushed, but obviously called off the wedding and broke up on the spot. I had not told many people about what happened except my immediate family. This all happened 6 months ago. I saw Amy's parents at a hardware store a week ago. They expressed how sad they were that we broke up. Her mom, who I was close with, asked me what happened. She didn't think I was the cold feet type and could just cut Amy out of my life. I was so confused, but then kind of awkwardly clarified that when she was partying with Sarah, who they knew all about, she decided to cheat on me with 2 guys at the same time. They were sad but not surprised. They had hoped she was turning a new leaf. About 2 days later, I got a slew of texts from Amy. She was angry that I told them and saw it as a way for me to get back at her by turning her parents on her. She said she gave me everything I wanted in the breakup and apologized a million times, which is true. She moved out immediately, worked out canceling wedding plans, etc. It was a clean break, no drama. That said, her parents were super angry about throwing away our relationship. They told her sister, who Amy always competed with and hated for shaming her constantly. Her parents were pretty well off and gave her sister and my brother-in-law a huge amount of money to get their lives started. They promised the same for Amy, but told her that they were going to just donate it since they don't want to finance her lifestyle. I kinda knew it might happen, but didn't really care. I would have been fine keeping it to myself until I found out she told them that I basically got cold feet and abandoned her. Amy said she always thought I was kind, but it turns out I was a vindictive a-hole. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Cheating has consequences and she's experiencing hers. Yep, she literally effed around and found out. Right? Amy threw OP under the bus. OP cleared his name by telling them exactly what happened. And she's mad? Funny. Not the a-hole. She's just mad that her money is going away. She played a stupid game with a loser who should have never been still in her life and won a prize of losing her future. Agreed. And she very well could end up misusing the funds. Shocked that a 29 to 30-year-old could be this easily influenced by her friends. My stepdaughter died 4 weeks ago and I caught my husband and his ex-wife in our bed. Original post. My stepdaughter Becca, 14 female, died 4 weeks ago. I've been in her life since she was 7 years old. We were extremely close. My husband Derek, 40 male, his ex-wife Sam, 38 female, and I, 35 female, get along very well. There's never been an issue in the 7 years that I've been with Derek. Sam has always been kind to me. She didn't even care that Becca called me mom too. Right after Becca's passing, Sam had so much anxiety and depression that she was unable to be by herself. She has no family besides us, so we invited her to stay with us. Sam hardly leaves the house. She mostly just sleeps in Becca's room, which is completely understandable. I always tell her that I'm here if she needs me, and that I want her to take her time with grieving and that there is no pressure to go back to her home. Today I needed to run some errands, so I asked Sam if she'd like to join me to get out of the house a little bit, but she declined and said she'd rather just stay at house and sleep. I told Derek that I was leaving and that I would be back in 2-ish hours. He works from home. I also told him to check on Sam every once in a while and maybe try getting her to eat something. After stopping at the post office, I realized I forgot my library book that I needed to return. So I went back home to get it. As soon as I walked in the door, I heard moaning coming from mine and Derek's bedroom. I immediately knew what was happening, and my heart completely broke in that moment. I wasn't completely sure what to do, but I ended up deciding to confront them. So I walked to the bedroom and opened the door and began yelling at them both. Sam started having an anxiety attack and ran to the bathroom, while Derek kept apologizing profusely. I asked him what the heck was happening, and he told me that he made himself and Sam some lunch, and they began talking about Becca and shared some memories. And then Sam ended up kissing him and he didn't pull back. And then it ended with them in our bed. They're begging me to understand that it was just grief that caused them to become intimate, and that they both made a mistake. I don't know what to do. I love this man, and I love Sam. I'm heartbroken that they did this to me and put me in this position. I feel so stuck. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. You're grieving yourself, and you still found space in your heart to welcome Sam into your home so she wouldn't be alone. What they did was take advantage and was very selfish. I hope you find your way through this troubling time, and I hope whatever update you bring is a good one. Love and light hug. Thank you so much. Your husband can grieve the loss of his marriage as well. 100% this. There's no reason why you should accept the grief excuse. How do you know if this was the first time? There's going to be no trust now. That would be hard no for me. I understand grieving, but how is this excusing cheating? What happens next time he is sad? Obviously, this is something beyond devastating. I still don't think it can be used as an excuse. I don't want to excuse his cheating. I think I want to divorce him, but I'm anxious about doing it right after we lost Becca. I understand, and you can try to make the divorce as amicable as possible, but think about it like this. He had no issue of causing you to go through such betrayal right after you lost Becca. You're right. I feel so broken right now. I understand that you love both Sam and Derek dearly, but you also need to remember to love yourself. Your husband cheated on you, and Sam took advantage of your kindness and generosity. I understand they're both grieving, so are you, and this is wrong, given how you are still in the picture. You are Derek's wife, and you are also very close to Becca, whom she also sees you as a mother figure. Sam should have respected that, and Derek should have respected you. This is harsh, but if this isn't the first time you left them both home alone, then this might not be the first time they've been sleeping together since Sam moved in. I would highly recommend an STD test, and maybe a lawyer, but Sam definitely needs to leave. That's exactly what I was thinking. I have this strange feeling that it wasn't the first time they've been together since she started staying here, but I'll probably never know the truth. Good idea. I'll definitely do that ASAP just in case. Thank you. Now for the first update. I decided that I'm filing for a divorce. I can't ever trust him again. It sucks because we had an amazing relationship, or so I thought. He's always been great, so this was a complete shock to me. Last night, Derek came over to talk. He confessed to a lot. Turns out it wasn't their first time doing it like most people thought. They've been doing it since 3 months before Becca died. I am completely shocked and heartbroken. Sam also reached out last night and thanked me for everything I've done for her and told me she was sorry. I didn't respond, just blocked her. I did so much for Sam and considered her a friend, so this hurts a lot, more than I can handle. This is all too much. As hard as this is gonna be, I need to leave Derek and cut them both out of my life. I am ready to do so. I am done. Also, some people are saying I deserve this because I should have known better than to let Sam into our home, around Derek. You need to understand that I'm a giving person. I trust people more than I should. I truly thought Sam was an amazing person. I know it's unusual to become friends with your husband's ex-wife, but it's just how it went for us, and I shouldn't be blamed for what happened. Thank you to everyone who commented nice things and for the kind messages. You've all been helpful during this insanely difficult time. I appreciate it. Out of curiosity, what are his excuses for cheating? Those two are going to be in a world of hurt once the guilt settles in. They're going to be asking themselves what had to be Becca and will eventually come to conclusion that it's their punishment for what they've done to you. I can pretty much guarantee you that. He told me that they just accidentally reconnected one night when I was away at my mom's. He was stressed we weren't conceiving and were having miscarriages, so he vented to Sam. And then somehow that led to sex. It seems so icky to me. How can he vent about our struggles like that and then go and sleep with Sam? It's just awful of him. I don't understand it. So not only did he betray you after the loss of Becca, he used the miscarriages of your own pregnancies as his crappy excuse? What a horrible excuse for a human being, a real POS. Rather than talk to you and work through the losses and pain together, he sought out comfort through his ex. They deserve each other, and you deserve so much better. Please take time to heal and move on from them. I hope you find your happiness. Second update. I'm getting lots of questions about some things, so I figured I'd answer a few of them. Have I told anyone about what happened besides my mom? Yes. I told a few friends and some family members. Most of them are supportive of my decision and aren't speaking to Derek. Where is Derek staying? Currently, he's staying at a hotel. Our friends refuse to let him stay with them. He's lost a lot of people due to his awful decisions. Has he tried fighting me on getting a divorce? Yes, he begged me not to file for divorce. But when I told him I needed him to just let me go, and that I was too exhausted to fight him on this, he let it be and agreed to getting a divorce. Why isn't Derek staying with Sam? He told me he didn't want to continue to hurt me, so he told Sam he was done with her for good, and that they have no reason to speak to each other anymore. I have no idea if that'll last, and if they'll just end up together, but I truly don't care what they do anymore. I just want peace. Third update. I just found out that he is staying with Sam and not at the hotel. He told me it's too expensive to stay at a hotel, and Sam is the only one that'll help him right now. I had a feeling this would happen. Just knowing that they're still probably sleeping together hurts my heart. I talked to a lawyer this morning and we are proceeding with a divorce, and Derek agreed to it. It's actually happening, and I feel some relief that he's not fighting me on this. My mom leaves on Sunday. I'm scared to be alone. But I go back to work on Monday, so I'm hoping it'll be a good distraction. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to have my stepkids at my honeymoon? Plus updates. Original post. I, female 28, have been in a relationship with my fiancé Tyler, male 42, for the last 4 years. He has 2 kids from previous marriage. Kids are 8.5-year-old boy and 11-year-old girl. His wife passed away when his youngest was 1-year-old. He met me 3 years later. His kids are wonderful and lovely, and we get along great. We live together. I do everything for them since Tyler works long hours. They call me mom, but they're aware who their real mom is. We have her pictures in their rooms, and Tyler talks about her to them all the time. We are planning our wedding. My father offered his condo in Hawaii to us so we can enjoy our honeymoon there. It was a very kind and generous offer. When I told Tyler, he was so grateful. Then he said, I bet kids will have a blast. I looked at him in disbelief and said, kids? He said, yes. I said, that's our honeymoon. I don't want to be a mom on my honeymoon. We can go on plenty of family trips later, but this is our honeymoon. He said, I was honest with you from day one. I told you I'm a package deal. You can't just choose me, not my kids. I told him I understand, but can they stay with your mom for 1 week, just for our honeymoon? He got very frustrated and said he couldn't believe how insensitive and selfish I was being. Am I the a-hole to expect to have a child-free honeymoon? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. Is that even a question? It's honeymoon, not Thanksgiving. He made me feel like I'm an evil stepmother who is excluding his kids. But it's our honeymoon. I don't want to worry about kids. Run. It is one thing to neglect your kids and another to not realize that every environment is not appropriate for children to be involved. You will have further issues down the road regarding this, especially if you ever decide to have children with this man. He won't even hear you out, and you should be cautious about being with someone who could automatically cast you as an evil step-parent because you have boundaries. He knows I want to have kids eventually. He said he is not ready yet, but he will be eventually. I do feel like a villain now because I want a week to ourselves. He will not give you kids. He wants a mama for the existing ones, sorry to say. But he will say changed his mind, and then say you can't just abandon the kids. They already lost one mother. You seem to be mom to his kids first and partner second. I don't think I need to think too hard about what the division of labor looks like in your household either. I'm also getting controlling vibes. From what you've said in your comments, he is disinterested in marriage, preferring a quick and unromantic city hall wedding, as it would feel weird having another wedding again after his wife died. You've never had a one-on-one date with him, only family outings. You take the primary role in caring for the children. He's not interested in having more kids now, but will think about it in the future. You really want children of your own. He is morally outraged at the idea that you would even want to abandon the children to go on honeymoon, and is questioning your character for desiring it. We don't know the ins and outs of your relationship, but from the snippets you've shared beyond your initial AITA post, you see the red flags here, right? OP, he's not marrying you for you to be his wife. He's marrying you to be his live-in nanny. Do not marry him. You will never have a real relationship with your husband. He may even expect to divorce you once the kids are grown, and you're not needed anymore for their care. Not to mention with the age gap, even if he agreed to have more children with you, it is likely he will refuse until the current kids are grown, then refuse because he's too old to want to have more babies. You are not going to be his wife. You are going to be his unpaid childcare worker. If you're okay with that, then go ahead with the wedding. Mini update. Okay, I said I won't reply because I was emotional. I went for a long bath. I'm off today. I'm better now. 1. I was into him. I pursued him. I thought he was younger. He told me about his real age, his kids, his late wife from the first moment. He even said he would understand if I say no. I loved him. I loved how honest, kind, and caring he was. 2. We don't have alone time or date nights. True, but it doesn't mean he doesn't say he loves me or he's not affectionate. 3. I decided to cancel everything. I don't think he is ready and we need to have a serious talk. I also need to know if he even can have kids or if he had a vasectomy. Either way, we are not ready to be married. Now for the first update. So many of you suspected that he has had vasectomy. Well, I decided to have a serious discussion with him about everything last night. He said he has never cheated on me, and he never will. I asked him if he had vasectomy, and for Pete's sake, just tell me. He didn't even deny it. He said, yeah, but you gotta understand, I lost my wife when my youngest was an infant. It was such a traumatic time for me. I wanted to make sure I'll never go through it again. I started crying. I asked him how could he lie to me all these years. He didn't even feel bad. He said, well, you never ask. You asked now, and I told you. Plus, what's the big deal? I have a frozen sperm in the clinic, and it's a reversible procedure. I was floored. You saw me taking pills, yet you didn't mention? He said, well, I thought you were taking pills because you have heavy period. I couldn't believe this man still blames me when he was the one lying in my face. I told him how unhappy I am, how burnt out I am, and he uses his work hours so he can dump the responsibilities on me, and I don't even feel loved anymore. I gave him his ring back, and I told him I was done. He was shocked. At first he thought I was kidding. Then he saw me packing my clothes at 11 p.m, so he started arguing that I should just wait a little longer, so by December he will know about his job. After that, we will go to a fertility clinic and you will have your stupid baby. Then he started guilt-tripping me, saying stuff like his kids have already been traumatized once. How could I be so selfish and leave them? I didn't even bother answering. I left for my parents' place. He has been begging and saying he will change. He will be more involved and asking me to come back. You are their mom. Come back. We miss you. I'm mentally exhausted. I can't believe I have been so stupid. I'm gonna start finding a place for myself near my work. Thank you. The love bombing begins. The endless promises to change, how much he and the kids are missing you, how cruel you're being to them by leaving. He's going to do everything he can, say whatever he thinks will work, to bully you into going back. Leaving was the right thing to do, but staying away is going to be much, much harder. Tell your parents and your friends exactly why you've left and don't want to go back, so they can support you in staying away from him. Don't be silent about this or feel ashamed. You deserve much better than this, and I hope you get it. That's exactly what he is doing. My parents think I overreacted and I should give him another chance. My parents love him and his kids. They keep saying what a nice guy he is. I can't believe they are taking his side. I need to find my own place ASAP. I am so proud of you. I am sure this had to have been so hard, but you did the right thing. You deserve so much better and did nothing wrong. Please don't let the guilt tripping make you feel bad. Sending so much love. I have been crying a lot. I can't believe him. I poured my heart and soul in this relationship, and he lied in my face and now blames me. You were convenient, but he never loved you. He may have cared about you, but he always thought of his late wife as his real wife. You were just there to take care of the kids, the house, and his needs. He never considered that you might be expecting more than that. It sucks that you had to walk away, and it sucks for the kids, but he was never going to be invested in your marriage. If someone asked him on his deathbed to talk about his wife, he would have talked about his first wife, not you. You did the right thing, no matter how hard it was. I agree. I don't think he has ever been in love with me. I was just so convenient. I bet he has cheated on me, and he doesn't admit it. Second update. I left my ex because he was lying to me and treating me like garbage, as I mentioned in another post. We were together for 4 years, and I did everything for his 2 kids. Their mom passed away 7 years ago. I went back to pack my stuff, and his daughter said her dad told her that I left because I couldn't stand them anymore, and he chose them over me. I was floored. I asked my ex, and he, in front of the kids, said that he was just telling them the truth. He said, "You wanted a baby because my kids were too much for you. You hated my kids. Remember, you even wanted to exclude them from our trip?" He meant honeymoon. He wanted to bring his kids to our freaking honeymoon for Pete's sake. I told the kids that's not true and tried to explain, but both kids cried and went to their rooms. My ex screamed, "Happy now? Get the heck out of my house." I know I shouldn't care, but after 4 years of doing everything for them, this is what I get? I'm so mad at him.